Hello and welcome to The Top Story, a podcast with the headlines of the day from our correspondents around the world. I'm Ken Lu, coming up in this edition. Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh has been killed in an attack in Tehran. China has warned the killing could worsen the regional security. In Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian has sworn in as the country's 9th president. And in India, at least 161 people have died in landslides and another 200 remain missing. We begin in the Middle East. Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh has been killed in an attack in Tehran. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps said Haniyeh and one of his bodyguards were assassinated on Wednesday. A Hamas statement said it was an Israeli raid that killed their leader. Israel did not immediately comment on that. Meantime, China has condemned the assassination. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian warned the killing could lead to further regional instability.
We pay high attention to this incident. We firmly oppose and condemn the act of assassination. We're deeply concerned that this incident may lead to escalation and turbulence in the region. China has always advocated resolving regional disputes through negotiations and dialogues. The Gaza Strip should achieve a full and permanent ceasefire as soon as possible to avoid further escalation of conflicts and confrontations.
Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas also strongly condemned the killing, calling it a cowardly act and a serious escalation. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Nasser Kanani says Haniyeh's assassination will strengthen and deepen the close bond between Iran and Palestine. He says Haniyeh's blood will not go in vain. The Turkish and Russian foreign ministries have also slammed the act. Moscow says it's a completely unacceptable political murder. Ehsan Kivani has more from Tehran.
According to the IRGC announcement, more investigation is underway, but initially they accuse Israeli agents in Iran for the assassination. Ismail Haniyeh frequently travels to Tehran to visit Iranian high-ranking officials, and he always stays in the residence of Hamas building in the north of Tehran. Ismail Haniyeh met with the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei, and he also attended the inauguration ceremony. But in the early hours of Wednesday, the assassination took place in Tehran, unfortunately. The 62-year Ismail Haniyeh was a charismatic figure of Hamas, and since 2019, when he left the Gaza Strip, he had been living on a kind of exile in Qatar as one of the serious supporters of Hamas. Some analysts in Iran believe that it's a kind of security breach, and the IRGC should be responsible for such lack of security measures in Tehran.
That was Ehsan Kivani reporting. Staying in the Middle East, Iran has ushered in a new president. Masoud Pezeshkian took office on Tuesday following Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's official endorsement. The 69-year-old is set to unveil his cabinet within 2 weeks. Following his oath-taking before Parliament, Pezeshkian outlined his administration's goals, focusing on Iran's economic development and national interests and improvement of people's lives. He highlighted key foreign policy objectives aimed at safeguarding national security and enhancing economic prosperity. Pezeshkian also condemned Israeli actions in Gaza, criticizing bombings that affected civilians and those who supported such actions. Ehsan Kivani again has more from the inauguration ceremony in Tehran.
Iran's new president, Masoud Pezeshkian, took his public oath of office in front of the Iranian lawmakers and foreign guests and delivered his inaugural speech on July 30th. The inauguration ceremony was held 2 days after the Islamic Revolution's supreme leader officially endorsed the election and appointed him as the president. According to Iran's constitution, the supreme leader is authorized to depose the president if the latter breaks the law or does not adhere to principles of the revolution.
I consider the normalization of economic relations with the world to be Iran's inalienable right. I will not stop trying to remove oppressive sanctions.
Since the supreme leader is the country's commander-in-chief, major elements of power such as the armed forces and state media are out of president's control. The same can be seen in foreign relations, as the general framework of Iran's foreign policy is unchangeable, supporting resistance groups in the region, enmity with Israel, and fighting against the U.S. hegemony. Dealing with years of sanctions and the consequent economic pressures, the Iranian people expect Pezeshkian to revive the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, based on which sanctions would be lifted. With Masoud Pezeshkian taking the oath as Iran's president, he faces a long list of challenges. One of the anticipated obstacles to his efforts to revive nuclear negotiations with the West is the parliament, where the majority of seats are occupied by hardline conservatives. The parliament has proven that over the past years it has dealt serious blows to hopes of the revival of the JCPOA by substantially limiting Iran's cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency. Despite serious domestic and international challenges, Pezeshkian says his administration can take great steps based on national unity.
That was Ehsan Kivani on the new Iranian president. Elsewhere in the Middle East, Lebanese health authorities have said an attack around the Shura Council of Hezbollah killed 3 people and injured over 70. Lebanese Prime Minister Najib Mikati condemned the attack. He said Lebanon will reserve its right to take all necessary measures that contribute to deterring aggression. The Israeli army announced that it has killed Hezbollah top military commander Fouad Shokar in Beirut. It said the airstrike was retaliation for an earlier rocket strike that killed 12 youngsters in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. Hezbollah has denied links to the rocket attacks. Jonathan Regev has more.
In Beirut, the much-awaited Israeli response for that attack in Majd al-Shams in the Golan Heights, which killed 12 children over there. And Israel reportedly was looking to strike a very top Hezbollah official. His name is Fouad Shakur, seen by many as the number 2 person in Hezbollah, right behind Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah, also seen by many as the chief of staff of Hezbollah. How veteran is he in Hezbollah? Maybe the fact that he is also very much wanted by the United States could give us the answer. Why is he wanted by the United States? For an attack on U.S. Marines back in 1983, more than 40 years ago. That's how veteran this man is. And of course, another big question hovering over is, how will Hezbollah react? We heard the Lebanese foreign minister saying that he understands that Hezbollah has to react, but he hopes it is done in a way which will not drag the area into a full-on war. The nature of that reaction by Hezbollah can, of course, determine where the area is now heading to.
That was Jonathan Regev reporting from Tel Aviv. In America, U.S. housing prices rose in May compared to 1 year ago, but home buyers looking to find a bargain, at least in some parts of the country, may still be very much in luck. Mitch McCann explains.
The new data shows that in the United States, house prices are up year on year, and while the volume of property available is increasing, it isn't high by historical standards. It's still at pre-pandemic levels, making it a competitive housing market for buyers across the US. If we look at year-on-year data, from May 2023 to May 2024, there is an overall price increase of 5.7%. That is the smallest year-on-year increase since July 2023. And with that in mind, this result was a little slower than what we saw in April as well, which was a 6.4% year-on-year increase. Specifically looking at just the month of May, the Federal Housing Finance Agency says house prices for May were unchanged. The agency's Deputy Director for Research and Statistics, Dr. Anju Vajja, said US house price movement was flat in May. And she added that the slowdown in US house price appreciation continued in May amid a slight rise in both mortgage rates and housing inventory. It won't take many guesses for those who live in the Big Apple as to where price increases are being felt the most. New York posted the biggest gain with a 9.4% increase over the last year, so that's a considerable rise for New York. Then we look at San Diego, previously the highest city, with a 9.1% increase. Las Vegas, 8.6%. Los Angeles, Texas 8.4%, and Miami, Florida saw a 7.6% increase year on year.
That was Mitch McCann reporting from New York. In Asia, rescuers in the southern Indian state of Kerala have been scrambling to recover dozens of people trapped under massive landslides. Local authorities said at least 161 people have died in the slides and another 200 remain missing. The Indian military said it has deployed over 200 soldiers to assist in search and rescue works, and the Indian Air Force has conducted an evacuation. At least 250 people have been rescued. Rahika Bajaj has details.
Starting about 2 a.m. on Tuesday morning, Wayanad, the picturesque hilly town in the southern state of Kerala, was hit by multiple landslides triggered by torrential rains. Officials say that it's very difficult at the moment to even assess how many people may still be buried under the rubble after the landslide or may have been washed away in flood waters. The army has been called to extend its support, and especially the engineering unit currently building rope bridges and makeshift roads so that those who are still stranded in those villages can be evacuated to safety. The National Disaster Response Force has also sent a number of personnel to help in the rescue work, which is turning out to be very challenging with heavy rain continuing, and the weather department saying that this inclement weather will continue till at least about Thursday. We're looking at the Prime Minister announcing an ex gratia for those who have been killed in this natural calamity as well as those injured. But all indicators saying that the number of those who may have perished in these landslides may be much higher than what we are hearing.
That was Rahika Bajaj reporting from India. Now recapping today's headlines. Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh has been killed in an attack in Tehran. China has warned the killing could worsen the regional security. In Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian has sworn in as the country's 9th president. And in India, at least 161 people have died in landslides and another 200 remain missing. That's it for this edition of The Top Story, a podcast that brings you world headlines every weekday. For more news in politics, business, sports and culture, you can subscribe to the Beijing Hour, a 1-hour podcast news magazine program. We welcome and appreciate all ratings and reviews. I'm Tian Lu. Thank you for listening.